I wanted to give you a basic guide to selling snake oil to people. This kind of follows on from what Roger was saying earlier about how they will happily relieve you of your £25,000 from your wallet and without any perceptive benefit. So I'd like to go through one or two other examples of snake oil. This is the classic thing. I mean, if you're going to sell snake oil, the first rule is, of course, don't hold back. Don't pretend that you're going to affect only one condition. This one will relieve absolutely anything. It says cures headache, neuralgia, toothache, earache, you name it. As I said, it can be treated with snake oil liniment. So I strongly urge you to go out and buy some, and it'll be in the foyer immediately afterwards. But of course, sometimes you can overdo it, and you really shouldn't be that precise on the detail. Maybe you want to actually just be a little bit looser on things. And this is the one I like particularly. This is I can't even pronounce it, but it just simply says it lightens the ills of humanity. So why do we bother with precise illnesses? Just lighten the ills of humanity, and that pretty much covers everything you need to know, doesn't it? And of course, the other thing is, people nowadays, we're much more critical. We're much more interested in knowing what's actually going into our medicines, what kind of things we actually take. So it's a good idea to use ingredients which have known effects, things that you already know whether it'll work or not. So in this case, this is Dewey's port wine and olive oil mixture. I can't wait to try that. So as I said, all the safe ingredients and combined in about as unpleasant a combination as you could imagine, really. I'm not sure I would even put that on salad, frankly. And of course, if that's combining two ingredients, well, why stop at two? Why not go for 4 different ingredients, 4 different treatments? And this is an advertisement to analgesia in about 1880. Using violet ray. I can't imagine what violet ray even is. I assume it's ultraviolet, but again, you do question that. Vibration, ozone, and medical electricity. You can imagine them with the medical electricity. Just hang on a second, I'm just going to wire this. Oh, sorry, wrong way around. So you okay? But this, of course, the other thing is that you're going to start with the basics. Let's start with the basics. And the one thing we do know about treatments is oxygen is good. We all need oxygen, yeah? Oxygen in order to survive. So this is Dr. Sench's Oxydona. And this is a very, very simple device. You put it into what appears to be a fishbowl. I'm not quite sure why you need a fishbowl. But apparently you can actually increase the blood oxygenation by a device attached to your ankles. And the claims are very clear for you all to see. So if you care to go out to Detroit and buy your new Life Giver, I don't know quite how you meant to walk actually with this thing attached to your ankles, but who knows? And of course the other thing is, a lot of advertising trades on people's fears of the future, and I thought this was particularly good. Rupture, permanently cured or no pay. But the best part of it is the bit where it says. Without the use of knife or syringe. And both of those words have been capitalised, since they're obviously particularly frightening to the average Victorian. But this is my absolute favourite. Now, the Curves of Youth Chin Reducer and Beautifier. And who wouldn't want that? I'm not actually sure that I would actually go to bed with somebody wearing that. No matter how beautiful my beloved was, I don't know that I'd want to see her in what appears to be a combination of a scrum cap and an electric chair. And of course, electric technology has been going for many, many years in one form. With this one was Dr. McLaughlin's electric belt, and I love the gesture where he's just sort of handing like this to the gentleman, and there's all this sort of, I suppose, what's intended to make you think electricity, but it looks to me as though he's there. It looks to me as though they're having a very bad date. He's saying, "Oh, come on, now listen to me." Nope, not going to listen to you. Completely ignoring him. Or this I think is one of the earliest of the repurposing trials, as it were. And I'm sure Richard appreciate this one. This is Burnett's cocaine for the hair. And as you can tell from the magnificent growth of hair in the picture, this obviously works. But the glazed eyes probably tell you that she's applying the stuff entirely differently from not necessarily rubbing it onto the scalp, I suspect. And sometimes you just actually have to turn evidence completely on its head. Asthma cigarettes. It says for the temporary relief of paroxysms of asthma. I would imagine it would be pretty much for the permanent relief of asthma, but not in the way they intend it. And this one, I can't remember why I put this one in. I just like like the idea of Dr. Cobra. If you're selling snake oil, then you really do have to be Dr. Cobra, don't you? Miracle elixir. And this is something that's largely vanished from the pharmacopoeia. Emulsions generally. What emulsion do you use? I don't know. Crown, Dulux, whatever comes to hand. But I wouldn't apply it to my body. But this is advertising. Let me see if I can read this, because it's this is an appeal to science. It provides perfect nutrition, of which the foundations of health. The only vitalized emulsion of cod liver oil contains blood germicide guaiacol and the glycerohypophosphites of lime and soda. And a testament to its important health-giving properties is there in the logo, where you have the fish gasping for air. But this is the best of the lot. Radium emanation water drives out uric acid and a whole lot else, I should imagine. But this is apparently a thing called a rayode, when you put it in water and then drink the water from it. And it says the rayode will last a lifetime, which is, I suspect it'll certainly last your lifetime. But again, not in the way you might want. Of course, the other way is, if you have any contentious aspects to your products, then this is the way to do it. You have to challenge your opponents, challenge them to prove you wrong. And as I said, this is Dr. Sage's catarrh remedy, and if you look, not only does it improve his catarrh, it also improves his haircut. And that really is an added benefit, I think you'll agree, for any medicine. And certainly that was the case with this chap. This is J.T. Mills, James Thomas Mills, who's like many of these snake oil salesmen, started out doing one thing, ended up doing another. He started out as a phrenologist and used to give people job advice on the basis of what he saw in the bumps on their heads. And he invented the mind and memory training system, the science of brain function, brain construction, which is interesting. I'd be surprised if it was the way he thought it was constructed, certainly. And this is another wonderful thing as well. If you're going to sell snake oil, of course, you need to be at least a doctor, somebody. But if you can be a professor, that's even better. There's no record of him ever being appointed professor. Apparently he just awarded himself the title. And this is him as a herbalist towards the end of his life and selling digestive and back herb pills. And the only reason I mention it is that he was also my great-grandfather. But I've got some tins on sale for anyone who's interested. But in fact, some of these more bizarre things actually do come from what are reputable sources, which is unusual. Jean-Martin Charcot was the scientist, clinician in Paris who first gave the condition Parkinson's its name. And he also discovered that people who came to visit him with Parkinson's, who came on the train and were shaken to bits, somehow seemed in better shape physiologically than those who had walked to his clinic. So he thought that the logical conclusion from this was that it was all to do with vibration, so he produced this vibrating chair. And how did he know it worked for them? Well, he used to ask them. He said, do you feel any better after the session with the chair, or do you need another one? No, I feel much better, please. So, but the best one was that it was his student, Gilles de la Tourette, the same Tourette, as it were, who invented an even better device, which was this, that fitted to the top of the head and then shook the brain. And he found it very effective. Not many people needed a second treatment. But just moving on, I said, if you're talking about selling snake oil to people, of course, the internet is everyone's dream in that respect. It's the perfect opportunity, mix of means, motive, and opportunity. And as always, in these things, it's a question of how they're reported. And I just love this particular front page. Man's head explodes in barber's chair. But it's probably Gilles de la Tourette's patient, now I think about it. But of course, when it comes to stem cells, as Rogers alluded, stem cells will apparently cure anything. They'll certainly cure you of any significant positive bank balance. So it's faced with that information overload. Where do you actually start? Where do you actually deal with these things? There's so many different aspects to it that, as you say, it needs to be done rationally. It needs to be done in a considered and sensible time frame and approach. But if that's the case, then how do you, as people with Parkinson's, how do you assess what's reasonable and what isn't? And I was like this. This is I don't know if anyone's familiar with Roger. You might recognise this is the crest of the Royal Society. And the crest says nullius in verba, which is translates as take nobody's word for it. And it's, in other words, you have to form your own judgments on these things. So the first thing, if you see a treatment for advertised for stem cell therapy, if you try Googling, I found this quite effective. You Google the name and the word fraud as in the same thing. If it comes up with anything, then I think you've got a reasonable cause for concern. The other thing is, if it's a website without any street address or phone number, then again, good cause for concern. And even sometimes where they do quote an address, you actually, when you type that into Google, you find that the address doesn't exist, or it's not in the country that you thought it was. So the other question is whether the location looks credible. And this is where Google Earth comes into to great usefulness. So you simply open up Google Earth, and if the address that you found, instead of being a large facility next door to the Mayo Clinic, turns out to be a 2 up, 2 down in Carlisle, then it probably isn't a credible source. Typos on the website, certainly, you won't find those on any reputable website. If the website is slow to load, it means that they're almost certainly running it from a PC in their bedroom. And if there are advertisements, again, beware, because scientists don't do that. So, just following up, it said this is taking Tom's original title as about what doctor or which doctor. And again, you can do exactly the same trick. Just Google the name and fraud, and that will often prove extraordinarily informative. The other question is, where do they actually publish? Where do scientists publish? And they'll publish in scientific journals. That's fundamentally what we do as a breed. We don't generally go straight to the newspapers first. Are the credentials difficult to validate? And again, it depends on that. Some names are easier to trace than others, but it's worth looking through and just finding out when they've appeared on the scene, so to speak. So, and the question is whether they've got a book or a product to sell. If there's anything for sale, then I think you have cause for legitimate concern. And the other thing, the one that really defines it, is the use of the M word, miracle. Scientists just don't use that word, simply. So, just going back to the beginning, so the outrageous claims is certainly nothing new. So all the internet has done is simply provide wider opportunities. So, and as I said, in general, I think scepticism is important, and it's important not to confuse hope with hype. And as I said, if you remember nothing else, remember the best research is usually reported by scientists, not by journalists. And the final take-home message is, unless of course it's any of the products which I was advertising at the top of the talk. Thank you.